$4 billion. That's how much revenue Target lost in a single year. They did it entirely to themselves. It starts in 1962. Target made a completely different bet. They decided to build a discount store that didn't feel like one. Better lighting, wider aisles, cooler products. You walked in and it just felt different. And then in 1994, a CEO named Bob Ulrich took that idea and pushed it somewhere the retail world had never been. He called it cheap chic. He'd sell people products at a discount that still made them feel wealthy. To prove the concept, Ulrich went to a famous architect named Michael Graves, a man who had designed buildings for Disney, and asked him to create a $40 tea kettle for Target. Then that tea kettle became the best-selling tea kettle in all of America. That was just the beginning. Target started doing collabs with luxury brands. Italian fashion house Missoni. The collection dropped and people lined up. People started calling it Target with a fake French accent. The first crack was called the REDcard, a store credit card that gave customers 5% off everything they bought at Target. Before the REDcard, people went to Target without a plan. That was the point. You'd wander in, find something unexpected, feel the thrill of a discovery, and leave with a cart full of things you didn't budget for. The REDcard turned shoppers into specialists. Suddenly, people were going in with a list, buying exactly what they came for, scanning the card and leaving. The 5% discount made them feel smart about saving money, and completely killed the behavior that made Target rich. In 2008, Bob Ulrich retired. They didn't replace him with another visionary. They replaced him with an operator. Greg Steinhoffel had been at Target for 30 years. He knew the spreadsheets. He knew the systems. In 2012, Target announced they were going into Canada, not spent over $2 billion to buy the locations of a failing Canadian retail chain called Zellers, exactly over 200 stores across the entire country, and told Wall Street they generate $6 billion in Canadian revenue by 2017. The locations were bad. Zellers had been failing for a reason. And Canadian shoppers who had literally crossed the border into the US to shop at Target because the American stores were so good, walked into these Canadian locations and were stunned by how bad they were. Target projected $2 billion in first-year revenue. They got less than a third of that. They were losing money on every single transaction. And here's the part that stays with you. People inside the company knew. They saw the warning signs. But the culture that had built up inside Target headquarters, insular, top-down, and nobody willing to risk their job to speak up, meant the bad news never made it to the people who needed to hear it. In January 2015, Target walked away from Canada entirely. 17,000 people lost their jobs. It was the biggest retail failure in Canadian history, and they lost $7 billion. Compare that to Walmart. When Walmart went into Canada in the 1990s, they had early problems too, but they slowed down, learned market by market, and took a full decade to get it right. Target tried to cheat time, and time won. And while the Canada disaster was still unfolding, something else happened that hit even closer to home. December 2013, the holiday season, the moment that accounts for nearly 30% of a retailer's entire annual sales. Hackers had been living inside Target's payment systems for months. Target's own security team in Bangalore flagged it. They reported it back to headquarters in Minneapolis. Headquarters did nothing. By the time the story broke publicly, over 40 million credit cards and 70 million customer records had been stolen. The stock dropped 10% in one single week. The final cost was over $300 million, but the financial hit wasn't even the worst part. Target had spent 20 years building a brand around one idea. Shopping here is a smart and elevated choice. You are not like the Walmart shopper. You have taste, you have standards. And now, here was that same brand, the one you trusted with your credit card that got hacked, stayed quiet about it for weeks, and let it happen during Christmas. Steinhoffel was fired in 2014. His CIO was fired too. Target brought in an outsider to fix things. Cornell, former Pepsi executive. Brian arrived in 2015 with fresh eyes and a clear diagnosis. He stopped the aggressive expansion. He renovated stores. He went back to designer brand partnerships. For a moment, it looked like a genuine recover, but underneath the surface, a structural flaw had been there the whole time. Headquarters decided what the stores should carry and pushed it out. When COVID hit and demand went completely unpredictable, that flaw exploded. Headquarters kept ordering based on pandemic-era buying patterns. But by 2022, people didn't need another throw pillow. They didn't need another webcam. The pandemic nesting phase was over. Target was left with over $15 billion in inventory nobody wanted. To clear it, they had to discount everything. Gross margins collapsed from 27 to 21%. In one single quarter, profit dropped over 20%. The stock fell 25% in one single day. Foot traffic dropped for 8 consecutive weeks, according to Fortune. Not occasional dips, 8 straight weeks. Today, Target's annual revenue sits around $106 billion down from its $109 billion peak. That's the $4 billion the title promised. Real number, sourced. Not a market cap estimate. Actual money customers stopped spending there. The stock is down roughly 60% from its 2021 all-time high. Traffic has been falling quarter after quarter. The Ulta Beauty partnership, a rare bright spot, is ending in 2026. Walmart is at all-time highs. Costco is thriving. Amazon keeps expanding, and TJ Maxx keeps growing. But Target is stuck in no man's land. Not cheap enough to beat Walmart, not cool enough to justify the premium, not exciting enough to make you leave the house.